Spurs fans, how different does that feel coming on? And we're talking about a win. What an unbelievable feeling that is. And joining me today, we have some new guests and some veterans joining us. So let's get straight into the video, bringing on Christopher Hubble. How we doing, my friend? How's it going?
Mate. Yeah, not bad. Good night. Good win. We'll take the points and go on to next week.
Indeed. Following the theme of bringing on old guests, we're going to bring over Nige from Pure Quiz. How's it going, mate?
Yeah, good. Happy with the win. Bit flat with a late goal, but you know what? I take it.
That's Spurs. That's Spurs for you, isn't it? That's Spurs. And then introducing two people that are making their debuts today. You'll be fully aware of both of these anyway, but bringing in Mark Cookie. How are we doing, my friend? How is it?
Hello, Luke. Yeah, thanks for having us on, mate. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Yeah, great win, 3-1. We I think we all said that sort of score, 3-0, 3-1, 4-0.
Yeah,
it's happened. Yeah. We've got the result. Well chuffed, mate. Well chuffed with the win. I'll take it, mate.
Completely agree. And then last but not least, Drew Zilla. How are we going, my friend?
Hello, mate. Pleasure to be here. Pleasure to share the screen with you guys. First time here. First time meeting Nige, Mark, and Chris. So nice one, lads. Yeah, happy. I said to you earlier, we had a little chat on the WhatsApp, and I said 4-0. But to be honest with you, if you just said to me 3-1, I'd have bitten your hand off. So lots to talk about. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, 100%. So that, funny enough, we might as well start there. So before the stream, I did send out a little message to everybody, just seeing if they would give a prediction of what the score is going to be. And there's 3 people that have made the correct score. Mine is on video as well, so I'm not just saying it now the results come in. But I went 3-1. Chris went 3-1, and Mark also went 3-1. Nige went with 3-0, which how we didn't get 3-0. And then at half time, Drew, I thought you was coming in with the 4-0. I thought you was going to get it bang on.
I know, right? I was thinking 2 in the first, 2 in the second. It's all good. I'll get my money now.
It was so when the subs went off, that was when the game changed a little bit, didn't it? Yeah. Conceding that last minute goal was obviously a bit difficult. It's going to be a difficult second leg. I think everyone's kind of been saying very similar things. We needed to kind of get a win in the first leg, get it convincingly, and then go back to the second leg. But before we go into the deep dives of the game, there's been quite a lot of messages on like Twitter and things like that in regards to the press conference before. I've seen a lot of people that are sticking up for Ange, saying that he's backing the club a lot in terms of the media making out that us getting to the Europa League final, possibly winning that, is the same as Man United in the FA Cup. There was a lot made of Maddison, and it really seems to have split the fan base as if it isn't split enough. I've seen loads of people backing Maddison saying great, and I've seen loads of other people saying that they don't like what was said specifically around that he doesn't take any personal responsibility. What was your thoughts on that, Drew? What did you think of the press conferences? I don't know if I'm putting the quotes up if you wanted me to kind of go over them.
Yeah, I'd listened. I watched it obviously yesterday, like everybody. There was nothing really. Usually I sit there and I'll listen to it, and it might not 100% of my attention, but I've usually got an earbud in, or it's fairly loud. And if something piques my interest, or if something rattles me, I'm pretty quick to go back over and press pause and replay. And I honestly don't recall anything being too outrageous, to be honest with you. I mean, I know James Maddison, I guess more so than Ange, sticks in my mind when he was trying to say, he was trying to convey how much he wants to win, and it's a reward for kind of everybody. And I think even he said like maybe he wasn't wording it correctly. So, I mean, I don't know. I think the one thing I will say about Tottenham is that everyone there is under a hell of a lot of pressure, and it doesn't seem to matter what anybody says. Everyone seems to be on tenterhooks because they're worried that it might be taken every way till Sunday. So I'm not sure. I don't recollect anything being too outrageous though. So forgive me if I sound too Angian.
don't worry. I have a feeling we might be both of us in that corner. But yeah, no. So in terms of what James Maddison said, so James Maddison, it sounded like well, some people have taken it specifically when he spoke about the supporters. So the question was: the supporters are embarrassed, hurt, and angry. Do you owe them in this competition, given what they've gone through? And they or we're going through it as well. And but the reporter said, but they'd argue that you're the ones that have put them through it.
Yeah,
so,
right. I do. Yeah, now you say that, I do remember that. I mean, he's got. You know what James Maddison's like? He kind of gives as good as he gets, and I think there are sometimes he's probably best. He's a cheeky lad, isn't he? And he likes to. I don't know. He's nice to listen to, but sometimes I guess you wish he'd sort of draw a line. I can see what he's kind of getting at. But I mean, I'm in the camp of there's certainly a lot of players. I mean, I'm sure everyone else might feel the same. There's a lot of players out there that did kind of owe us a performance. So I'm not, in that regards, I kind of see, I can see the uproar, shall we say?
Yeah, I think a lot of fans got annoyed because when it was Forest, it was 2-0 down and he was smiling. I think it was with Son on the touchline. So, Mark, did you see anything of the press conferences? Did you make too much of it, or do you think it's just a bit of Twitter?
Yeah, man, it's just the same old. To be honest with you, I don't take Twitter in a lot, Luke. I'm more of just a YouTube, because it can just get way too over the top, and that side of it, I probably should maybe have a look. Do you know what I mean? Without getting involved in it, but I don't really. I pretty much, as wrong as it sounds, I stopped listening to his press conferences pretty much because I was hearing the same thing all the time. Nothing changed. You know what I mean? And it just gets so repetitive. And in the end, I think sometimes, whether you should or you shouldn't, your brain just gets a bit numb to it because you're just hearing the same stuff all the time,
Yeah.
It is what it is, and you can make what you can make of it. It's all assumptions at the end of the day, and we're just assuming.
100%. Nige, just a quick one to go over. Was there anything that kind of stuck out for you?
No, I didn't have an issue of anything that was said at all. Like Mark said, I don't really listen to Ange, but I listened to Maddison. Didn't have a problem with what he said. It annoys me a little bit. It's like, we all go to work. What are we supposed to do? Not have a laugh? It's like, I know that Romero was sat behind when we're through. What's he supposed to do? Just sit there and look serious? He's just chatting to his mates. I haven't got an issue with it. Do it on the pitch, but if you're not playing, I don't see that you've got to be, deadly serious all the time. And
I completely agree. I mean, as fans, I feel like we've been laughing at us this all season anyway. So the players might as well join in with that, to be honest with you. So, and Chris, seems like no one was really too bothered about anything that was said. About
I bet everyone said it's a bit of a lot. I mean, Spurs fans will argue that with the season that we've had and what we've had to go through, doesn't deserve to be a laugh and a joke. But I did catch something, I think it was on TalkSport, they actually compared Ange's press conference to Amorim's at Man United, and I think they got asked very similar questions and they both sort of answered them in a different way, whereas it was about, if you win something, is that considered a good season? And I think there was Ange basically said it would be a good lift for the club and everything else, and then I think Amorim sort of said, well, I don't think it is. We obviously want to be playing in the Champions League, but it's a bit of a shortcut to get into it. You want to be at the top of the league as well to be qualifying for the Champions League, not having to try and win a trophy to get in it. So, again, you're comparing another team, but they're probably in a very similar situation to us, where they've not had the best of seasons. It's not gone their way. But I think, as you say, as everyone said here, I don't really take too much. There's nothing in it where you sort of you can have a go at anyone. It is what it is, and there's no spite behind it. I think they must be feeling it as well. The fans obviously feel it a lot more. We're watching it. We're the ones, they're playing it, but we're the ones having to sit there and put ourselves through it every week. But yeah, no, nothing really too serious from my end.
I feel like you're right. Definitely, the press conferences do seem to be very similar, but there's also part of that is the same questions from the journalists. It's just the same thing over and over again. So the whole press conference is around the same questions. And I feel like, again, what Drew said earlier, I definitely feel like at the moment people have they don't want Ange and that's it. So they'll see a snippet and there'll just be little bite-sized stuff that's put online. I specifically remember, I think it was Moose asked him a question a couple of weeks back. And everyone was like, "Oh my God, look how rude he is!" And literally, if you listen to the next question, him and Moose are like laughing because it was a tongue-in-cheek comment, but it was taken so far out of context. And I feel like that's happened quite a few times. I did like the fact when they started mentioning about us kind of underestimating Bodo, and he was just like, "Listen, I've come from the other side of this world. Like I'm not underestimating anybody," which I think is one of our big problems as a club before. And well, it always feels like we go into a game where if we think we should win, we just don't even really turn up, and then you get turned over, which is probably why we've had some poor results in Europe. But yeah, no, I completely agree. I didn't have too much of a problem. I just see it so interesting. And Mark, if I was you, I would stay off Twitter. it's not the best place to be. I'll be completely honest with you. But obviously, to start the day off, we did have some slightly bad news. There was a lot of whispers going around about this whole Mole situation at Spurs, and it did seem to come to fruition with Bergval's injury. It was obviously a shock because I think he took part in training yesterday, and there didn't seem to be any sort of indication that there was anything bad. The rumours that have been circulating are that he's possibly out for the season. And that there may also be another player as well that's out for the whole season. That sounds really dramatic when there's only like 5 or 6 games left, but could be a big blow for Spurs, especially considering the sort of form he's been in. Do you think that could impact us going forward, Nigel? If that's the case?
Honestly, no, not really. I think Kulu's come back at the right time. We've only got 4 league games, and obviously the Europa. Bergval's done well. But I think with the games we got left, I think we should have enough, obviously, depending on what's happened tonight with the injuries. You know, it's disappointing because I think he's had a really good season. But I think, we should have enough to carry us through the rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think many people fancied Basuma coming in to be his replacement, but I feel like today he done pretty well. So is it anyone else kind of feel like Bergval could be a big loss for this season?
He's a loss at the end of the day because he's probably one of the only players that throughout the season, as he's, integrated into the team, he's you can see signs of improvement, shooting buds, if you like. You can see the kid's got something about him, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, I want him to be coached because I don't think he's being coached. I think it's just natural improvement. That's what you're seeing at the moment. Yes, he is a miss as part of, like I say, he's the improving player. He's quite creative as well, trying to prove that he is a box-to-box midfielder, But we've got players in our squad, Basuma, if he's played correctly, Bentancur, if he's played correctly, they will do a job for you, but they've got to be played correctly. Good players that everyone wanted, like Basuma, when he was up for sale from Brighton, teams wanted him. We got him though,
I thought we'd signed an absolute superstar.
You know the story on that one, Luke. So we've got plenty of cover. It is a miss, but we have got plenty of cover, and They done all right tonight, Bentancur and Basuma. I thought they done all right.
Yeah, as I think before we come on air, I said exactly the same thing. I think Basuma come in. It was a shock that he came in, but it seemed like he completely changed up the tactics, brought more of a two-man midfield as opposed to having that single one. And it seemed to be a lot more balanced. The balance looked better. I don't know whether it's just being up for that game, but I think you're quite a big fan of Bergval, weren't you, Chris? Was you saying that you was previously?
Yeah, I like Bergval. I don't think he's a miss where everyone goes, we haven't got him, we haven't got a chance. But I think even to have the option of bringing, even if he doesn't start, having him on the bench and bring him on as that option for 25 minutes, it gives us something. And I think that's what we'll miss. Maybe if we do get to the final and he's still out, if we don't pick up any more injuries from now until the final, that might be where he is missed. Just looking to the bench, if we do have a bit, if we do need to change it up and maybe bring some energy on. Kulusevski's obviously back, so he can sort of step into the attacking role. But I think in the midfield, I think having Bergvall come on, he's the one that seems to be getting the ball and going forward with it and trying to make things happen. And I think that will be the miss. I don't think it's going to be a massive miss, but it's definitely, I think it's at this point of the season when we have got a second leg, 4 Premier League games and then a final potentially, I think it will be a slight miss.
Yeah, I agree. And then lastly, Drew, what are your thoughts on Bergvall?
Yeah, I mean, I really like the kid, but I mean, it's something to be said for our midfield when, you know, he's the shining light, unfortunately, and it's testament to him. I mean, he's done fantastically this year, but I mean, there have been 3 or 4 times where he has kind of turned into trouble or kind of shown his naivety and kind of given away a couple of sloppy goals or things that have led to goals. But that's not to, like, as I say, he's 18 years old and I really don't want that to come across as like digging the kid out. I think he offers something different to the other two because he very much wants to take the ball and carry it and kind of glide and kind of pop passes, but then run on and make another pass for the guy with the ball. Whereas I don't feel that the other two quite do that as comfortably. That being said, if we can get a Bentancur and Bissouma tonight for the rest of the season, like that would mean that the less would be, you know, the miss would be far less, you know. So yeah, and I thought Bentancur and Bissouma actually had pretty good games today because I was on another channel and the lineup came out and Bissouma was on it and people were having kittens. So for him to come and actually, you know, for the most part, I mean, obviously a couple of sloppy shots. I think somebody mentioned in the chat room that he'd taken 3 shots and he was already had 9 strokes. So, like, I just, he was a bit all over the place when it came to that. But I thought he put his foot in. He was really unlucky with a free kick that was given away, where he actually got his ball. He got the foot to it first, and he was actually kicked. But I thought he was fairly solid. A couple of really good blocks. And yeah, I mean, if he can do a job like that and Bentancur play like that, because I hold Bentancur to quite a high standard as well. You know, like I criticise him because I feel like he's better than he shows sometimes. I mean, I don't think he's necessarily the reason that Juventus won 3 Scudettos, but you know, you don't win 3 Scudettos with a club without being somewhat proficient with a football. So he flatters to deceive sometimes, inconsistently, with always being in and out, obviously unfortunate with injuries. But yeah, I think hopefully if those two finish the season strong, Bergvall will be less of a miss than I hope he is. Yeah.
Yeah, that leads us nicely on to the lineup. Again, it was one that definitely, in a few of the group chats, it was definitely a cause for concern. Bissouma being one. I think people were shocked at the forward line. So in terms of the lineup, when it did come out, obviously we're now looking back on a win. But was there anything that kind of jumped out at you, Chris, that you thought, I'm not happy with that, or would you have changed it? What was your thoughts on the lineup?
I think with obviously Bergvall's injury being sort of cleared up before the game, it was quite obvious the midfield that was going to be in there. The front 3 probably could have argued that Tell might have come in, but it didn't shock me. I feel like there's always going to be rotation in every game, even if it's just 1 or 2 players. I feel like he is going to rotate, especially on Sunday. I think obviously West Ham, they're going to be up for that. They're going to want to do us in the London derby. So I think he'll rest knowing that for Thursday we need as strong a team as possible. So there was no real shocks for me. I just thought Tell might have got the nod, but I think it's proven that Richarlison he can get himself into the game even if he is out wide.
I don't know why there's always these random players that come along and I just take a liking to them, and Richarlison's one of them. The same with Sessegnon. I don't know what it is. I just liked him, and even though he was terrible for us, I still just have a liking to him. But I did find Richarlison a strange one because I always felt that if you had to take Solanke off, Richarlison weren't going to play 90. So if for any reason you're taking Solanke off, you leave yourself short up front. And then obviously that actually happened. And then we went with Tell, and it just kind of felt like it went off there. But Nigel, what was your thoughts on the lineup?
I was quite surprised that Richarlison and Solanke started. Not necessarily disappointed, but I was a little surprised. And I was one of those that was having a bit of a meltdown that Basuma was starting. I was like, it's so negative. Let's go attacking. Put Kulu straight in. But, listen, he had a good game. So,
yeah. I mean, listen, mate, I was not happy that Brennan Johnson was starting. And after a minute, I was delighted that he was starting. So that is just the way. That's why I'm sitting here with Ange in the dugout, mate. Mark, how about you? Did you anything that you thought would be different?
Look, like the lads have said pretty much, for me, Basuma had to come in when Bergvall weren't playing. I'll get where Nigel's coming from with the Kulu, but again, he was played right tonight, Basuma. Don't get me wrong. I've mentioned earlier, we seem to have a lot of time on the ball tonight, I thought, whether that was due to us creating the space or us not being pressed as hard as we normally are, but... And we also wasn't at 100 miles an hour tonight either, all the time. So, Basuma for Bergvall, that was fair enough. And I was really delighted, to be honest with you, that he gave Richarlison a chance tonight, because I feel we lack like this, I don't know, you can call it physicality, shithousery, whatever you want to call it. And when Richarlison's on there, at the very least he's going to do is wind their back line up. Right?
Romero up front of it.
You know what I mean? And he does that. Whatever you might think of him as a footballer, some like him, some hate him, But he is very good at that. And I was glad he was in there tonight just for that. Because as you see, when he went off, it all died out a bit, didn't it? Second half, I
thought it was a strange one, to be honest with you. I thought it was
strange, but I'm glad he done it, though, Luke. Glad he.
No, I mean bringing it. I mean taking him off. I didn't. I thought he was.
He's got a knock apparently, hasn't he? He's got a knock. That's why he came off, and it was the same with Maddison. He asked to come off, Maddison.
Yeah, Madison won. That could be a big thing.
I don't know. We'll find out.
But
we'll find out.
Yeah, Drew, you in a similar camp there?
Yeah, I mean, as far as Richarlison, I mean, I can't remember the last time he played 90 minutes, so I wasn't sure if he was ever going to get much more than 45 anyway. It'll be awful for him if he's got another knock. I was all day, I'm sitting there in my head thinking to myself, I wonder if he's going to do something with Richie and maybe play two of them. He's going to play both of them, and that goes against all of my principles of having to have one on, one ready to rotate. And I was I'm thinking to myself, I'm not going to say anything to anybody because I'm going to sound like an idiot. I'm going to get mudded. And then lo and behold, the lineup comes out, and I was like, okay, I see what's going on. And I thought for a second it was just a case of like bombardment. I really thought we were just going to try and put as much pressure, like, foot on the throat. And that's kind of what it looked like for the first couple of minutes. And we didn't really do that for as much as I thought we were going to. But I think when the lineup came out, it just, it smelt of just trying to... It smelt of actually trying to get on them really quickly and try and blow them out of sight. But then actually, in hindsight, looking at the game, as Mark said, we almost looked like it was very controlled, and we were actually a little bit slower than I thought we were going to be. But Richie has a really good way of cutting off angles when he presses. That obviously that Tell, unfortunately, and the other guys, Odegaard, when he comes on, just doesn't really have. And so like we said, we really missed that when he went off. But yeah, other than Basuma, and I guess Richarlison, nothing was a huge surprise. The one thing I will say, I think 8 or 9 of those players that started were like 8 or 9 of the 11 that started the first 10 games of last season. So arguably there is some sort of cohesive, there's somewhat of a unit there. And I didn't feel like they pressed us, they didn't. Vicario had how many staves? So yeah, I think that the lineup was pretty spot on for what we needed.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I definitely feel like that's the back five now. There was a lot of noise about Spence and me included. I felt like he should have been definitely involved. I thought he was unfortunate to be dropped against Frankfurt, but Udogie has been fantastic in them 3 European games. And then Porro today, his delivery, his crossing, his passing, he offers so much on the ball. And obviously, as you said, they didn't really attack us. I think they had 1 or 2 shots on target. Obviously, one of them went in. But yeah, I just feel like when similar to you, Drew, as soon as the lineup come out, I just had a feeling that he was going to have Bentancur and Basuma sitting. I just thought he's not going to have one of them running up. He's going to, but then I thought he's not going to. Why is he going to change it now? And it's almost like in the Premier League, it's just like this is the way it is. We're just going to go this way. And then in Europe, he springs a surprise. And the only thing that's frustrating is why can't he start doing that in the league games and mixing it up a little bit? Because I feel like a lot of these minor tweaks that can happen that will completely change the way we play. Like just dropping that centre midfielder into the defensive midfield a little bit more, and then you create a little bit more in there when your wing backs go further up, etc. So it was quite a strange one, but obviously the main talking point is the actual game, the win. Was there anything that really kind of stood out for you, Mark, in terms of the game, what we've done differently? I think Drew hit the nail on the head. I think our pressing from that side, Solanke is fantastic at pressing, and I don't think we've got another player in the squad that presses like him. However, Richarlison definitely offers something like that as well. But what was your total thoughts on the game?
Look, we had a job to do tonight, and I think everyone will agree with the league performances. And a lot of us said it in the Frankfurt away. We wanted to see more than anything, a bit of this, from the, you're wearing the shirt. That's the least. It don't matter if everything goes wrong on the pitch tonight. Just make sure you give it everything. And again tonight, I don't think you can really, they scored the goal late, lapse of concentration, whatever you want to call it. But, to be fair, they didn't have a lot of the ball, did they? And when they did have the ball, they didn't really do anything with it. Throughout the whole game, there was none of this ball over the top business and we're in trouble and anything like that. I thought our shape was solid tonight. Again, he didn't invert Udogie and Porro as much as normal. And I think that helps us massively. That space in the middle that gets congested regularly stopped Maddison doing what you want him to do. And I think tonight, Maddison had a bit more time on the ball to look about what he was doing. We've got the goals, the 2 goals early, which helped us out. I think most of us have said we needed a 2-goal lead to take to Bodo. We've got that now. They're going to have a few players coming back, more than likely. They had a lot of players out tonight. So, and we all know it's going to be a different proposition on their ground. So we got what we wanted tonight. We're going there with what we wanted. We would have liked a bit more, but we've got the minimum, and let's see how we go in the second leg.
Yeah, I don't know whether you was watching it with the same commentary that I was, but Bodo Glimt's home record is something like 30 wins in the last 37 European games. Mm-hmm. So I knew they had a pretty good record, but that is unbelievable considering they've also played. I'm pretty sure they've played some Champions League football as well in that. So that is absolutely incredible. Nigel, was there anything that kind of stood out for you?
No, I just think it was a good, solid performance on the whole. I was slightly disappointed. It was great that we scored early, but I kind of think that we had a chance to really stand on the neck, and we didn't really take that chance. We're talking about the lineup earlier. I think it was a lineup that was meant to maybe overpower Bodo, and I think for the most part it did. But like it's been said already, I think we scored early. That's when we really should have stood on the neck and got 2, 3, 4. And I think we could have. It was a bit disappointing second half. I think we kind of got the third and then maybe just thought, okay, that's enough. I just wanted to see us keep going at them, get 4-5, and then the tie, and obviously then the disappointing goal at the end.
Yeah,
it makes it tough now. It's going to be a tough second leg, but on the whole, I can't complain. I think it was a good, solid performance.
that's kind of what Ronnie's saying there. I really feel like Solanke and Maddison going off really kind of swung the momentum. It seemed like we dropped off a level there. And I think Tell being up front as the focal point is just not his game. It looks completely different when Richie and Solanke is there. But yeah, completely agree. Chris, anything to add on that?
Nah, I think Bodo Glimt looked like they wanted to keep the ball as much as possible just to try and run the game down, maybe try and get us on a counter attack. But thankfully, I mean, 37 seconds I think it was for the first goal. It showed they knew they had to come out quick and start strong. So, as I say, I know that their record at home, they've beat some big teams as well at home. So, I think we all knew that getting as many goals as possible at our ground was key. 3-1's not the end of the world. So hopefully we can just get to their stadium and put in a performance and put a shift in to secure the win and go into a final. Yeah,
100%. As I said before, I think if anyone was offered 3-1 at the start, I think they would have took it. It's just the way that it worked. I think the commentary team said it as well. If Bodo would have gone 1-0 up and then we come back and won 3-1, the way you come away from that game is completely different. Whereas where it's the other way round, there is that little bit of deflation, that little bit of Spurs are going to find a way. they're just going to find a way, aren't they? Drew, is that your feeling as well or not?
Yeah, do you know, I know it's really nice to get an early goal, and somebody stop me if I sound like an absolute pillock, but is there something to be said for getting too early of a goal? It almost feels like the goal was so quick that they almost didn't have a chance to get into a real rhythm, and then in the back of their minds, they're now already protecting a lead.
Yeah.
So I don't know, there was just something about it. Like I kind of expected a few crosses, as I say, with Richarlison being on the field and Solanke, I was expecting Porro to just be first 5 or 10 minutes. Let's just go. And especially with Basuma and Bentancur kind of holding, and each one of them kind of picking off them, kind of maybe picking up the ball, us winning the ball back quickly. I kind of expected, as everyone sort of alluded to, the foot on the throat. So yeah, it was just, it felt a little bit, even watching it, like they were almost a bit like, oh, here we are, we've got one now. All right, yeah. And it was what was really nice is actually seeing Bentancur in the middle of the park, actually telling people, and Porro as well, like getting everybody to kind of keep a cool head, because we've really sort of missed that sort of on the field leadership all of this season. Like it seemed there's been a lot of people that have kind of just head down or just not looking at anybody because nobody really wants to take charge of things. So that was really nice to see. First half, I think, honestly, was a lot better than the second half. Second half was maybe a little bit more controlled, but I think it took us a little bit longer to get into it. And I think we got rattled by the injuries. And I don't think Kulu hit the ground running. He seemed to be, he was like the tanker version of Kulu, you know, the one that seems to take an age to turn. But I don't want to be too unfair on him because obviously he's been out with the foot thing and, you know, he started to grow into it. I wish he'd have capitalised on that shot that he had the opportunity to get. He seemed to take that shot really early and just plough it into the player in front of him. Whereas I think he had a near post angle, I think. I mean, it's easy for me to say on my chair in the middle of America, in the middle of America, but I think he might have had an angle, lads.
I can see it from where I was sitting. I don't know what he's talking about.
Right.
So, no, I completely agree. So we've got Bowen in the chat, Bodo Glimt fan and Bodo native. Well done, Spurs. You deserve the win. We're strong at home. We still have a chance. And I completely agree. I think that, especially in the second half, I think they literally thought if we could just nick one here, we fancy ourselves at home. And that was very. And then I think Spurs were very much where it was free. We're like, well, we're quite happy with this free, and then they obviously nick one at the end, and all things change. So I definitely.
To be fair, I was quite surprised at how high up they were pressing us. Like, to be fair, given how the injuries that they had. And even in the second half, they were somewhat going for it. I mean, they weren't going crazy gung ho, but I honestly expected them kind of drop off a little bit. And they really impressed me. They're a good team, good little outfit.
Yeah, definitely. And it was weird how they triggered their press, because there was some occasions where I felt like they gave us so much room, and then it was almost right now we go, and everyone just went. But normally you got a club who either sit off all the time or press all the time, whereas with them there was clear triggers in terms of, right, we're all going to go together now. And I think that kind of on occasions, especially in the second half, it kind of took us off because we had so much time on the ball, and then all of a sudden it was like
it's almost like in basketball when you do full court, half court, and quarter court press. It's like when they reached a certain part, like you say, it would like trigger something. Or even there are a couple of times, I think, even when it went to a certain player, like they would stand off, and then when the ball went into Maddison, they would like converge around, and he would have to try and find a ball to pop off really quickly.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I say I thought like if we can continue playing that sort of style and that sort of way, I think it plugs a lot of gaps that we have in our squad, especially if we set up like that, and losing Bergvall might actually add to that. But I completely agree. I think if Maddison, it didn't look like a bad injury, but if he's out for any length of time, then Kulu getting up to speed, it needs to be done ASAP, because without him or Maddison in the team, or if Kulu's not performing and Maddison's not in the team, literally the only outlet seems to be Porro at this moment in time. So hopefully it's not too long. Him and Solanke, they didn't look too bad, but this is Spurs, so they could both be ruled out for 6 months tomorrow. So let's see how we get on. So obviously there was a few of us that did predict a 3-1. So do we think now that that's enough for us to progress? I'll let Chris start here.
You'd like to think we've got a good chance, but again, I think it's the knowing their record, they'll fancy themselves. They know that they're strong at home. I think if it was 3-0, then I'd maybe be a bit more confident. But I think if they get an early goal, we don't settle into the game next week, and they get an early goal, then it's sort of a case they might go, right, hang on a minute, we can actually do this now. We've got the early goal. So I don't think I'm not sitting here banking on a final already. I think you just got to take the games as they come. But I think 3-1's definitely give us a good position to be a bit more comfortable going through. But 3-0 would have been obviously the ideal situation for tonight.
Yeah, I think the first goal in the next tie is going to be crucial. I mean, if we used to come out and get a goal within the first couple of minutes, or they was to do that, then the whole game changes. And I think you're right. It was almost like rabbit in a headlight. Scored early, and then it was like, what do we do here? Like, this isn't something we're used to. First of all, we scored in the first minute, and secondly, we're actually leading the game. Like, what are we supposed to do here? Everyone just looked around.
We're usually on the receiving end, don't we? Real quick. Yeah. So yeah.
It was like, oh, this is quite nice. I quite like this one. So, Nigel, what was your thoughts on it?
I think at 3-0, I think the game's done. I think we're in the final, but 3-1, you just never know. You know, they are good at home. Like you said, he won 30 out of 37, but they did lose 2-1 to Karabag, who we beat with 10 men. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I think we're score over that. I think their score. I think we should now. We're never going to have a better chance to make a European final.
No, I completely agree.
If we don't make it, then.
Well, I wonder if you know, but you've obviously got the 2 that were suspended. They will be back, but I think you had another 2 players that were quite instrumental in the first team. Are they back? From what I've heard, I think they're supposed to be back for next week, but it'd be good to know whether you do know that. Mark, what do you think? Do you think we're through? Are we home and hosed as Spurs fans, or
no?
Is it Spurs?
No, we should be, and I hope we are. You know what I mean? But for me, next Thursday, and I've said it a lot, complacency is not what I want to see.
Yeah.
Next week, go out there with confidence. You've just beat this team 3-1 at home. Right, go there with a bit of confidence. For me, I'm not the manager. I'd just be setting up to play counter-attacking football against this lot.
Yeah,
that is what I would be doing next week. Yeah. It would almost be Frankfurt-esque with a bit more going forward. Yeah, you score 1 against this lot, it could break their heart. If you can get the first goal against this lot, have them pushing on and have us counter-attacking, defend properly as a unit and as a midfield, and hit them on the counter. We can nick a goal, especially the first one next week. But if they get the first goal, chaps, for me, again, it's don't panic. You know they're going to come at you. Don't panic. We'll have our chances next week to score. I've got no doubt about that. It's just about taking one or two of them. We're sorted then. I can't see him. Well, I say I can't see him scoring 5 against us, but, you know, it'd be the most Spursy thing ever for that to happen. But
that's right.
3-1. I predicted 3-1, and I thought if we could win 3-1 tonight, it would be enough for us to get through, because I can see us scoring next week.
That was exactly what I was thinking. I feel like we will nick one.
Yeah, that's where I'm at with it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then finally, Drew, what do you think?
I really want to hope we've got a bit too much for them. We've looked really solid at the back. That's the one thing I will say, with Romero and VDV looking like the partnership we know they can be. And I got mixed feelings on Romero. I had a conversation with somebody yesterday on a channel, and I was genuinely like, if his head can't be turned back and he's got heart-shaped eyes for Madrid, then let's get through the season. Let's win this thing, and hasta la vista, do you know what I mean? Happy days. Thanks very much. But I'm not trying to push the guy out the door. I think on his day as a defender, he has an ability to put a ball through the lines that is laser-like in its precision. And I just, if we want to be a top 6, top 4 team, you don't just wave goodbye to players like that. So, as I say, I'm mixed. But that being said, I think there's just something. I don't know if it's written in the stars or if it's already written on the trophy. I'm not particularly, I don't really particularly lean into that way of thinking. But I don't know. I think there's something about them on these European nights. And one thing that Mark said, I very much agree with. If it were me, knowing that they have to come for us and come at us, and knowing how solid we can be, and if we stick another 2 in a double pivot at the back and just stay real solid like we did in Frankfurt, and have a Johnson and an Odeberg, or a Johnson and a Tell hugging the halfway line, just waiting for outballs just to go at them on the counter, that would be the way that I would do it. I mean, I'm sure we'll get there. I'm not going to change the way I play. We'll go up there and we'll play our way, and we'll be the team we want to be. And best of luck to him. Do you know what I mean? If it's somewhat worked for him this far. So in this competition, let me specify, let me clarify that, chat, before somebody goes throwing something at me. But yeah, and let's see, I just want this to work at the end of the day. I just want my team to be a team that I can be proud of. And I'd love nothing more than win this thing. So I think we'll do it. I think we've got enough. I think we'll grab 1 next week, and I don't think they'll get more than 2.
I mean, I'd take it. I mean, at this moment in time, I'll just take it. And I was texting my uncle, who's a massive Spurs fan as well, and I was talking about the Man United game, and I was like, it's just our luck that we get to a Champions League final and play an English club, and then we potentially get to Europa League final and play another English club, who we've already beat 3 times this year. So when you say written in the stars, is it written in the stars the other way? But I think I've got very similar thoughts to all you guys, to be honest with you. I think we will get 1 in the away leg, and then it's whether or not they can get. It'll be free to level it, obviously. I'm not sure if we set out like we did today with the right sort of attitude, because that's one of the big things I think is a problem for us. And again, this has gone back years. It's the mentality of turning up and going, we're winning this, that's it, we don't even need to turn up, sort of thing. And I'm hoping that with the fact that we are 17th in the league, 16th in the league, that they won't turn up with that sort of attitude. But I feel like if we play like we did today, or we do play like we did against Frankfurt, then I feel like we've got a really, really good chance of progressing. Kind of already mentioned it as well. Obviously, we were playing, so no one's probably seen much of the highlights. But in terms of Bilbao United, this was put on as a question of who would you prefer. However, today's result has probably determined that winner already. If anyone's not aware, United won 3-0, but they also Athletic also had a man sent off in the 35th minute, which is obviously an unbelievable result out there. A lot of people felt Bilbao would be favourites. So who would have you preferred? And then if it is United in the final, what do you fancy our chances? I know there's a long way to go, but everything's hypothetical, I guess. What do you think, Mark?
For me, I just want United in the final. I know it sounds like, all English final again and all that. Listen, before we knew this result tonight, a lot of people would have said, I don't want to fancy Bilbao in their own ground in a final.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I know. We was talking about this the other night, Nigel, weren't we? On one of our channels. For me, listen, I've got a missus that's got 2 40-year-old lads that are United fans. I have to put up with their crap every single day. You know what I mean? They come round here on purpose to jib me.
Even in their bad period.
I'll live with 2 of them, mate. And they've been round here tonight giving it the big one. You know what I mean? And I just want United, mate. We've beaten 3 times this season. Why can't we make it 4? You know what I mean? Come on. For me, look, we're all invested in it as such as fans. I'm not the biggest Ange fan, as everyone knows, and I'm not, right? It's for me, I don't care who the manager is. I don't care who the owner is. I've always said, I'm a fan. Bring me trophies. Bring me trophies. I don't spend the money. I don't own the club. I'm just a fan. Bring me trophies. That's what we want at the end of the season, if we can get them. We've got the best chance with the run we've had all the way through. We've got to where we are now. Go and win it. I saw us win it in 84. Right? I know what it will mean to this fan base to win this trophy. Right? So let's just go and win it. Let's go and win it. Let's just go and win the trophy.
This is absolutely terrible. I can't believe I'm saying this, but every now and then when I'm miserable with Spurs, so practically every game this year, I look back at BT Sports video where they done a little, it was like a semi-documentary around the semi-final, and it was Jermaine Genius crying his eyes out on commentary and all of that. And it just does something. And that weren't even to win it. That was just to get to the final. So if we won it, Chris, I think I've still got a video of you screaming your head off from the semi-final in my house when we got there. So
I had my shoes on ready to leave, and then literally for some reason I walked back in the front room, and then it flicked and then scored, and then I just remember it just then turned into carnage. But it was just so quick how it just switched.
Imagine if we go through that and we win a Europa League. It will be absolutely crazy, and the trajectory of the club could completely change from having obviously no Europe to having won a cup and a champion and in the Champions League the next year. And you're talking about your Romero's possibly leaving, that sort of thing. That could completely change everything. I do think that we'd need to make some serious upgrades in certain areas to compete in a Champions League, but just imagine that. Just for there was someone on TalkSport today. There was a Tottenham fan on his way to the ground, and they said the question was, would you take winning the Europa League if it meant Ange stays on as manager? And the guy went, nah. And I'm like, all we've wanted for so long is a trophy. I don't it's different. I could understand a Man United saying that, or I could teams that are winning stuff all of the time where it's just I'm not even really that bothered. But for us, I'd take anyone being the manager. I'd take Daniel Levy being the manager if I had to, just to see us win the Europa League. Go on, Chris, what was your Bilbao United? What would be your preference?
I think I'd probably rather United over Bilbao. I think when you come up against a European team, there's always that. There's like a different element to it. Whereas when you're playing against United, you know their form. You see them play week in, week out. They're in the same. As you say, we've beaten 3 times this season. I'd feel a lot more confident playing them. But again, just being a Spurs fan and how we played this season, I don't know if I'd be confident in the Spurs team that would play. Something would happen and it would just end up being just typical Tottenham to go and lose it. So if I had to pick, if you had to give me the option, it would be Man United.
God, it's all pick Man United. Drew, are you of the same
yeah,
opinion?
I think I am, because at the time before this, I'd be a hypocrite if I said that I didn't think Big Bilbao were a pretty decent outfit, and I honestly thought the Williams brothers would probably haze us if, like, somehow, some way, it would just be. It's just like Man United go there and absolutely put one over them, but I just think in my head, I'm thinking to myself, no, they would just wipe us out. Maybe I'm not doing us a service, but you know, there's something to be said for those two, especially. The winger in that is which
Williams.
Yeah, he's so quick, and I love our fullbacks, but I can see him just getting rinsed. So I would rather have United from the point of view of, like we say, we kind of know them. Although that being said, I don't know if any of you saw the first goal. I can't believe what I was seeing. Harry Maguire standing up a man, going past a man, going to the byline, putting in a cross. I was like, what? I've never seen such a thing in my life. So I don't know. I don't know what Amorim's cooking up there, but they've been pretty poor in the league and they seem to be able to get themselves up for this. We've been pretty poor in the league and we've seemed to be able to get ourselves up for this. So I don't know, man. Might be just a nice English Premier League game in the sunshine. I don't know. But I think we've got their number this season, and nothing would give me greater pleasure, nothing, than to not only win a trophy, but to say I beat Manchester United 4 times in a season. 4 times.
Mark, I have a feeling you have a very similar.
All the teams. And I've never even been to Manchester. I just had to sit there. I'm 45 years old, year on year on year of fucking Alex Ferguson and all of them, all the time winning. Oh.
The only thing I'd say about that is they did stop Arsenal winning a lot of stuff. So
that's the only saving grace. The only saving grace. But I tell you what, there are too many Man United supporters in the south of England. That's the truth.
Yeah, there's a few. There is a few. Cookie, I think you might agree with that.
Well, I'm a southerner, Drew, but I live in Oldham.
Oh,
and Oldham
there you go.
Is literally, it's a tram ride to Manchester town centre. That's how close I am. Yeah, you know what I mean? Sure. And it's I'm mobbed with them up here, mate, and I have to stand up for myself. Give it the large. You know what I mean? It has to be done. And when they're in the position that they're in this season, even though they're trying to change it round now, I have to give them stick, mate. They give me stick.
Sure.
I'll give it them back. Do you know what I mean? They take it as well as I do, so it's all a bit of banter. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. It's all in good fun. Should be taken as no other way, right?
Give me United in the final, man. Please give me United in the final. I'd love it. Man.
You've just put so many things to bed. So many, 2-0s that turned into 5-2s, and just like it would cover so many wounds that I've got. Southeast London and Kent for the first 35 years of my life. So it was just, it was at my school, it was at my work, it was just pelters all the time.
Everywhere.
Yeah, you know what I mean? South London and his Liverpool supporters, Man United supporters, and then them lot down the road.
So it's like they were taking you back to a childhood memory you don't want to go to.
You didn't tell me I was getting PTSD tonight, Luke. I appreciate you. Thanks, mate.
He's just private message and said he's got to go. Sorry, mate. I didn't mean to do that for you. That's what we've got right here, mate. That's what we've got. I'm in East London, so we're full of West Ham, Arsenal, We've got United, a few Chelseas, and everything else. So, but my
maybe it's just because I can almost feel like I can reach out and touch it. Maybe because we're so close again. Maybe it's like all that's resurfacing.
But as I said earlier, even in their bad period, they're still winning trophies, picking up FA Cups, still nicking things here and there. So, but I think the Europa League winning that is, as I said, it could be an absolute springboard, and also it just completely stops, as you said, so many of the whole narratives. Like I was talking to someone the other day, and we was talking about like football, but before the Premier League. And I was like, the amount of people that talk about Tottenham never winning a trophy. And it's like, it just factually is so incorrect. It's ridiculous. It's just that nothing's ever been recent. And it just gets rid of that. And also that Twitter account, I don't know if you've seen it, days since Spurs last won a trophy. That one can go to zero. That one can go to zero, which will be absolutely brilliant. But yeah, I mean, I think you're right in terms of what was said earlier. I think if we was given a choice before the fixtures, I think everyone would have said that Bilbao at their home stadium, even though the stadium would be a little bit more 50-50 because it's the final. I think that they would have just probably been too strong, even though United have made us sound really silly by doing that tonight. But but then I flip it the other way. I'm always flip-flopping between this idea because I just don't fancy us to beat us 4-4. I just can't see out in a world how we beat United four times on the spin. But I hope we're wrong. I mean, we are jumping ahead of ourselves. We've still got a second leg to go ahead, go through yet. But as I said, if we get a professional, and also if we both turn up, if we just get to the final and us and United both turn up and we have our bad games, that might just be disconnected they might just disconnect the game halfway through and say we're just going to let the game play out and we'll update you at the end what the score is, because everyone will be turning it off.
All of a sudden a CFAX page just shows up out of nowhere, takes you back to the old school, just sitting there waiting for it.
Just you hear loads of cheering, and it's because the signal's gone and nobody's going to watch it. They can all just not watch it and just listen.
I think I'm the odd one out. I think I'm the one. I would fancy Bilbao in the final.
Oh, you would? Really?
Just because the romanticism of playing a European final against a European team.
Yeah.
I think, like you said earlier, the stadium would be 50-50. I don't. Bilbao are similar to Spurs recently in the fact that we both don't win a lot of trophies. I just think United are mentality monsters. They get to a final more often than not, they win.
Yeah,
that's my real concern. No matter what we've done in the league and the cups against them, I think they get to a final. They're a different breed.
Yeah, I think both of them. I think definitely like formation-wise, I think we're probably better suited to play against the Man United formation. But I would worry for Nico Williams at Porro. If we don't set up correctly, then Nico Williams against Porro, I think, could be an end up. I mean, what Nico Williams done to Kyle Walker was ridiculous. And then obviously Porro has not got the pace on him. So both of them will be very, very tough games. But can we get over the line is the question. I would love to think so. This would just be absolutely crazy if we did. Only Spurs could be 16th, 17th in the league and on the potential of getting into a European Cup final. It's like, I always say this club is just one crazy club. Anything can happen. Like Bergvall injury 5 minutes before kickoff, going around before anyone's kind of known it. It's just nothing surprises me with this club. So that's the European adventure out of the way. Obviously, we do have a pretty poor league campaign that is still ongoing, although most of us have probably forgotten about that at this moment in time. There was a game that was played today in the Premier League, and Nottingham Forest got beat 2-0 at home by Brentford. So Forest are close to dropping out of the top 6 now, which is quite huge considering a lot of people were talking about in the top 3, probably finishing top 3, and all of a sudden they're now on 60 points and Villa are only 3 behind them. But Spurs currently, we are West Ham is 17th and we're 16th, and obviously that is the next fixture for us. We play them on Sunday. What would be your team? Would you just completely ditch the whole 11? Would you do 11 changes? Would you try and keep them fit? Would you quite keep them playing? Where would you be with team selection on Sunday, Chris?
It's a tough one because you do want to rest players, but then you also want to keep giving them minutes so that everyone's still ticking over.
You've also got loads of friends that are West Ham fans, and if they win and beat us and go above us, you're all going to be fuming about that. Let's be honest about it.
But it's always their cup final against us. They always turn up and beat us. They play for it. So I think for me, Romero, Van de Ven will probably be the ones where we'll see if Danso maybe comes in and Ben Davies to change the centre-back partnerships. In midfield, again, I can't really see. Jed Spence maybe comes in at right back or left back as well, just to give one of them a rest. In centre midfield, I can't really see where we change. I don't know. Maybe Archie Gray, just to give it. I mean, he played him against Liverpool, and I don't think it's a bit fair on him to be playing in that sort of game, especially if Liverpool beat us. They won the league, which they did. So maybe Archie Gray gets a start in the midfield, and then I would probably. Again, do you change it up, or do you just let the boys build on the confidence of today and try and go for something? But it seems like everyone's just given up in the league. Even the players, I think it's just another game to tick over. And if we get a win, then brilliant. But it's like the season's done. They've all just ripped the season off now because we can't get relegated mathematically, but we also can't really. We can go up a few places, but I don't think it really matters. I don't really watch the Premier League games now, to be fair, because I just don't feel like anyone cares. So, I don't know. I don't know if you want to rest them, but then you want to keep the legs ticking over. So you just do what he's done before. And Romero, Van de Ven, first half, they literally get chucked off at half time. They've had 45 minutes, and we go from there.
Nigel, what would your team be? Or what would be your?
Do you know what? After tonight, I think it's going to be. I can see Romero, Van de Ven being rested. I think Spence will definitely come in. I think Sarr will play. I think there's a good chance Gray will play. You know, if Maddison's injured, if Solanke's injured, if Richarlison's got a knock, I can see the likes of Odobert and Tau starting, and maybe even Scarlett playing up front.
So you'd go virtually a full rotation then?
I wouldn't usually.
Is that your team, or is that what you think he'll do?
That's what I think he'll do. If we'd won 3 or 4-0 tonight, I'd just carried on playing the players, because suddenly next week, we should go through. But I think it's such a big game now next Thursday. I think we have to go careful, especially with the injuries that we may have picked up tonight.
Yeah, I completely agree. Cookie, what would be your team, or what do you think he's going to do?
It's really difficult. As everyone said, on the one hand, you want to sort of keep them ticking over, but do you risk any minutes against a West Ham that like you've said, it's their derby? They'll be up for it whether we are or not. If we're not getting stuck in, they will be. They'll know what the rules are for that game. For me, it would be. I'm not so sure about Romero because I think he's fully fit now. Van de Ven, with his, hamstring problems, maybe I'd leave him out. Maybe. I think there will be a bit of rotation. Like Nige said, maybe Tell coming into play, Odobert the other side. I don't know if he'll go as far as to bring Scarlett in, but again, Rich is injured, isn't he? So, he might get a bit of a promotion up to the bench, and like Nige said, he might well play. It depends. I think a lot of it depends on the manager as well, as in now they've got a bit of confidence from this game tonight, and does he want to continue with that by not making too many changes? Try and breed the confidence up for going away on Thursday, or does he make the wholesale changes and hope he gets a result?
Yeah,
It's difficult. It's difficult to predict because it's a bit different this week, Luke, isn't it? Because it's literally a week away. The game. It's not like we're waiting for it to happen in 2 or 3 weeks' time.
Yeah.
So it's
the other thing is the 2 different fixtures are very, very different as well on the basis. They're obviously at home today. So when you play away, by the time you get home, you've lost another day basically with your travel and your recuperation and everything else. So technically, you're playing Thursday and then you've got travelling and you're on Sunday. Whereas this occasion, obviously, we play today. We have got the Friday, the Saturday, so you could probably get away with fielding anyone that's not at risk and it not being too difficult. Whereas I think if you was to have wholesale changes, it will probably be more likely that it'll happen at Palace, which is the fixture after Bodo away. But I still think Basuma still needs to play. I don't think he's played enough minutes recently. So I think from today's game, I think he'll play. I think one of the fullbacks have to play because Spence will come in. The centre-back is interesting. I agree. I think Romero probably stays in with Van der Ven dropping out. And then I think the other injury concerns, I think you just don't even risk it. Kulu comes in for Maddison. And then if you can get away with having Richarlison up front, getting him 45, 60 minutes and then potentially Dane. But I have a feeling that there's going to be quite a lot of changes, which I agree. I think it's really, really difficult because Ange's got no credit in the bank. So I think if he goes full strength, there'll be loads of people complaining about it.
Yeah.
And I think if he then makes 11 changes, I think people will be complaining about it. And then I think if he makes half, there'll be half people saying he should have gone full. And he's got no credit in the back. So I don't think it makes a difference. I think there's going to be complaints either end. I've kind of jumped over you there, Drew. But what was
no worries.
Your team?
I actually think you're kind of spot on with the back line because I'm sitting here thinking to myself, is Romero, I mean, surely he's at the point now where he can play multiple games a week. And I can understand dropping VDV and maybe going with Danzo on the left. So I could see that. And then obviously, you bring Spence in. He plays 90, the other 2 split 45 or, something like that, 60 and a 30. So I'm not too worried about the back line really. But then, like Mark says, they're going to be up for it. And for the sake of us, for the sake of them leapfrogging us and us getting to the final with no other injuries, because it's one of those things that, we don't quite go into a tackle that somebody goes full-blooded into and we get on the receiving end of an impact injury and, really wondering what the situation is with Maddison and Solanke and Richarlison anyway. I mean, we might be pretty depleted. I wouldn't mind seeing Moore given a shout for 30 minutes on the back end of the game, kind of regardless. I think he's, he could do with some minutes in his legs. And I know he's been recovering from a knock. I know people have been giving, as far as my understanding is anyway, because he's not even been in the, barring 1 week, hasn't been in the under-21s or any of the under-18 squads. So I don't know, provided it wouldn't risk him, like you say, I'd like to give other people on the fringes some minutes and just call it what it is. If you go out and play for the badge and you play with some gumption, you're kind of proud. And like if you end up succumbing to 2-3 goals, I mean, kind of at this point in the season, it is what it is. Just go out there, show some pride. If you put one over on them, happy days. If you don't, a few weeks from now, we'll be giving it we've got a bigger European Cup than you. Do you know what I mean? We'll be doing something, They got the charity one, we got the real one. So not worried.
So right. I've just had a quick check on Twitter just to see whether Postecoglou quotes have come out. Dom and Madders felt a tweak in his knee, but doesn't sound like anything serious. Dom similar in his quad. Both didn't feel anything too significant, but it's just important to take them off. He also confirmed the decision to sub Richarlison was tactical, not related to injury.
Oh,
yeah.
Good.
So hopefully that means that obviously none of them are injured. And then that means that, as I say, I would see, if that is the case, Richarlison probably getting 65 on the weekend, 60 minutes, something like that. But for me, if Dom and Maddison have got any chance of having any sort of injury, then for me it just wouldn't be worth going there. the other part similar to that was obviously West Ham next, 16th, 7th. Does it matter? So the table. So basically, the remaining league fixtures are West Ham, Palace, Villa, and then Brighton. Realistically, in terms of the table and where we are, we could potentially probably get to like 13th, something like that. But that means probably playing full teams in every fixture and then running the risk. So I don't think it will be worth it. And is there a big difference? I mean, if we finish 13th this year, is that going to make any difference as a fan base?
I think it sounds a bit better than 17th, but you're still in the bottom half of the table, and it's still not been. I think performances has still not been a good season. So whether we finish 16th, 17th, or 13th, I don't think people are going to go, do you know what? I'm going to change my mind about the season because we ended up winning the last 4 games. We end up getting 13th. I think our decision, everyone's thoughts now is going to be, let's get as strong as team as we can out for the second leg of the semi-final and hopefully go on to the final with a strong team with no injuries and try and win the cup. And if we finish 17th, I mean, our performances probably we deserve 17th, but I'm not fussed about the league no more. I don't think it matters where we finish.
So the Europa League final is supposed to be played 3 days after we play Villa. And then obviously we've got Brighton on that weekend as well. Villa are obviously rejected our request to move the fixture, which I'll be honest, I think is completely acceptable because they want to get to they want to obviously get to the Champions League as well with their fixtures coming up. Cookie, do you need to shoot off, mate?
If possible, Luke. Sorry, I've held on as long as I can. Just say thanks to everyone. Thanks for having me on, Luke. Nice to meet you. Chris and Nigel, I'll see you soon. Big up to all the chat. Come on, you Spurs. Thanks very much, gents.
Take care.
Cheers, mate. Have a good one.
Thanks,
we won't be going on for too much longer anyway. So they obviously are in a battle to kind of finish in the top 5 now, isn't it? So Villa, as I said earlier, they are currently 3 points behind Forest, who are in 6th. So Villa I think they've been on a pretty good run since Christmas. So I don't think they're going to change it. However, there are rumours that the Premier League may interject and change it as well, because the expectation is that regardless, to be honest, I think regardless, we're going to play a weakened team. But there's been rumours to suggest that if we play a weakened team, then everyone in and around Villa are essentially going to launch a formal complaint because they would have essentially a bye. So I think that when you actually look at the fixtures that we've got coming up, virtually every single one of them, there's a reason to rest players. So is it feasible that we break that losing record in terms of games lost this year? I think that there is definitely a possibility of that, as I say, because I can see us very easily losing more games. Let me just pull up the fixtures that we've got coming up here. So I don't know whether you can see that. Let me just zoom in a bit. So we've obviously got West Ham next, which we've all just said that there's probably going to be some changes. Bodo, then Palace, and as I say, that one's because we're away. I feel like there is definitely going to be changes for that Palace game. You've then got the week-long fixture until Villa, but off the back of Villa 3 days later, you're in the Europa League. So it literally could be, if we get to the Europa League final, we could literally see a reserve/backup team in every single Premier League game for the rest of the season. And if that was the case, would anyone have an issue with that? Because it would look like we could potentially lose 4 games, taking that to 23. Would that be a problem for anyone, Chris?
In my head, we've lost the last 4 games of the season. Just by the way, we've been playing in that form. I can't see it changing. But is this request that we're putting, is it based on if we get to the final, it will change? Or is it us changing it now? Like, if it gets accepted, does it get changed? If we don't make the final, it still stays as it is.
It's on the basis that we make the final, and these things, it's one of them things that rival fans will take the piss out of us if we go out, but you have to do this in advance. You can't wait until the fact until you know. But one of the big problems as well with this is that Man United is scheduled to play the same weekend on the Friday, so they will essentially get 2 days extra rest on top of what we get. And again, apparently that might need to be amended because it looks like it's favouritism on one side. So there could be a whole load of changes taking place. But even if they do pull it back, the only difference that it would make is that we will probably have what was the matches? So I think the suggestion is that we would be Palace on May 11th, and then this fixture will be put to a midweek one on the Wednesday, which will then give us a full week to prepare for the Europa League. But as I say,
the Villa game forward, basically.
Yeah, so it will come forward into that midweek and then give us a full week, as I said, to prepare. But then obviously, as I say, Villa are also trying to go for Champions League. So they want to, I think their fixtures now means they play once a week. So they very much want to make sure they've got that gap.
Yeah, they want the rest time as well, don't they, to try and field their strong team to get into the Champions League places.
Yeah, so that's them. That's them here. So they're on 57. They're 3 points off Nottingham Forest and Chelsea, 4 points off of City. So they want as much time as possible. But as I said, obviously, what would be your thoughts if we went into a Europa League final, but with 23 losses in the year, Nigel?
For me, I think the kind of Premier League season is done now. So, I'm Anjay. Whether we win the Europa League or not, I think we need a new manager next season. But at the same time, I'm not going to beat Ange for the next 4 games. So as a fan, I can't say, oh, he's lost 21 and then put a video out about him losing 21. Oh, he's lost 22. Now, you can't do that if we're concentrating on the Europa League and if we're resting players. So for me, yes, I want to win every game. I want to win the league games. I don't want to finish 17th. That's embarrassing. But at the end of it, if we win the Europa League, you kind of forget about the league at the end of the day. So,
Nigel, I certainly will. If we win the Europa League, I'll certainly forget about the league. I don't think rival fans will. But...
No, it's all about trophies, isn't it? Now it's all about trophies. 10 games ago, it's slightly different, but we're in a unique position now where we've been absolutely bloody awful in the league, but we have an excellent chance of winning something.
I mean, in a way, you said, Drew said it earlier in terms of that stars aligning, and there is an argument for that in terms of it's poor on the fans that are going 100%, but we have played so badly this year that we could essentially field whatever sort of team we want in any Premier League fixture, and it makes no difference to us. We had Sonny pick up an injury, and you could argue that improved the team because of some of the attributes that Tell's got in terms of athleticism and things like that. So it could be, and obviously today, we've already discussed, everyone kind of was a fan of Bergwall, but if Bergwall plays today, do we set up slightly differently? Does he pull him in like he did Basuma? So is it that we're actually getting some injuries and it's kind of benefiting us, which is very weird, especially after this season? So Drew, what would your thoughts be? Are you in the camp of who cares, win the trophy, and then that's it?
Yeah, I mean, from a pride point of view, it really stings, obviously. I don't like looking at the table. I think I'm in and from a money point of view as well, obviously, very least, I think I'd rather be 7th than 17th, because, I mean, what's that? The better part, probably 30 million quid. So from that point of view, I'm very fortunate that I've lived in America long enough and I've managed to convince myself that we're too good to ever go down, that this is kind of just like it's just like a conference. It's not really a league where there's relegation. So I just consider it a winning season or not a winning season. Like, I feel like unless you're a savant or unless you're really into the details of the numbers, I think that if I asked you how many losses we'd accumulated 2 seasons ago, or 5 seasons ago, or 7 seasons ago. Likelihood is you probably can't tell me. Now, this might be an outlier. This might be so bad that people will have it etched in their minds. And 10 years from now, people will rub me the wrong way and be like, remember that season? I'll be like, yeah, but how many losses was it? And they'll be like 22. And I'll be like, well, screw you. Do you know what I mean? But up to, like, for the most part, it will just be a trash season. It'll be a loss of a season. It'll be very much like my basketball team. You know, and I just hope that, you know, we can regroup in the summer and we can, you know, do better next year. Because I genuinely think, for the most part, if we can stop the injuries, there's a top 8, top 6, top 4 team there with the right investment. I genuinely believe that. Whether Ange is the right manager or not, I'm not sure. As I say, I'm not really Ange in, Ange out. I just want it to work, and I want a team that I'm proud of. I understand why people are Ange out completely. I understand why people are Ange in and want to die on their sword. I get that. He's not had the best of luck with injuries. But do I think that we as a club will give him the things he needs to actually do what he typically does? And I don't think we will. So on that basis, I just don't know that he's the right man for us. I think we need somebody that's a bit more of a tweaker and a fiddler. I don't think we're going to give him the right tools for the job.
Ironically,
so I've gone off on a bit of a tangent.
No, ironically, I actually think that if we make the Champions League, then he needs to be sacked more so than if we don't. Because I think that if we get into the Champions League, as you just said, I don't think we're going to get the players he needs. And then I think his tactics going into these games in Premier League, in Champions League,
I'm not sure we'll give him the players. I'm not sure we give him the players he needs across the board, whether we make it or not. Because I completely agree. You know, I just think his players are so specific for what he needs. And, you know, am I convinced that if you dropped him into a Manchester City or a Liverpool, would he do? I don't know. I just know that I don't think we've got the players for him.
No, I completely agree. But could we not have said that about every manager we've had in the last?
Exactly. It's very much a club problem, unfortunately.
And that's very much where I've stood on it for quite a while. I've seen quite a lot of people, obviously, are and Jaff after the season. We've had 100%. As you said, I agree with that. But I do think that there's. If we think that getting rid of this manager and bringing another one in is going to turn us into a top 6,
right,
top 14,
and don't get me wrong, the guys wound me up no end sometimes this season. Absolutely no end. Some of the stuff that he says is absolute waffle, and I just think part of it, I guess, for me, is just not wanting to have to go through the rigmarole again. Like, do you know what I mean? But that also isn't a reason to stick with something that, from the, you know, by all accounts, from the outside looking in, doesn't look great on a week-to-week basis in your bread and butter. Do you know what I mean? What you do on a daily basis. Like, if I was going to work every day and messing stuff up, but at work functions, I was the life and soul of the party, I don't think I'd have a job for very long. Do you know what I mean? Like, if my 40-hour a week was me clowning around, but my, you know, once every couple of months on a Saturday, I had the, you know, the management staff in stitches. That would only get me so far. So, you know,
I mean, Nigel set out his still early doors. Nigel is not an Ange fan either.
And I get it, man. I really do.
Yeah, it's been very, very difficult supporting in any way Ange, especially over the last couple of weeks. Chris has teetered from one side to another, but I feel like he's gone to the Ange out as well now. So, but you did kind of mention it, and it'll be the last thing that we kind of go over, because I have seen it mentioned before. I commented on Twitter. I'm not even sure how this is even a debate, but if we win the Europa League and we do finish 17th, which is the lowest that we can, we have the worst possible loss record in our Premier League history, but we win the Europa League. Is that a successful season, Chris?
I don't. It's tough because you've got a trophy. Like, how do you not deem that as successful? I don't know. It's such a tough question to answer. I think being successful, if we win the trophy, Ange looks good because he turns around and goes, I did say I always win things in my second season. And I genuinely think it's a mic drop moment for him where he goes, there's your trophy, Spurs fans. I'm off. See you later. Bye. I've done.
I've done what Mourinho and Conte didn't.
Yeah, exactly. I think if you was to look at it in a whole and look at performance by performance, you'd probably turn around and go, regardless of the trophy, that wasn't a great season. All the fans were so disconnected. There was such a big split in the fan base. You could see the way that it's gone this season with Ange and his interactions with the fans. That's not been great. The players as well, sort of shying away from their media duties and not sort of coming out when they should have sort of been at the front of it going, listen, hands up, that was poor. But you give us a trophy, and I think all the fans, as again, the league side of it just gets blown, just gets pushed to the side. No one cares about that because we've got a trophy, and that's what we want. Semi-final of the FA Cup as well. Was it the FA Cup or the League Cup?
League Cup.
Or League Cup.
League Cup. Semi-finals of a League Cup, potentially winning a European trophy. So it's just the league form, and it's not been great. The injuries, you sort of look at injuries, and do you blame Ange for the injuries? What happens? Is it just a freak? Is it just a freak season? Is there a reason behind it? But I even if we win the trophy, and I think even if Spurs say, look, Ange, we want to give you a contract extension, I just think he turns around and goes, I've done my part, there's your trophy. But I think for his own mental health, and I think he's realised it's a tough ask, and even when the tough gets tough, it's you're still expected to produce. You
can't be involved with this club for too long. Like, ask the fans how we do it. We deserve so much success. The only question I have got though, Chris, is that you didn't answer whether it will be a successful season. So is it a successful season or not? Yes or no?
I think it has to be because we've got the trophy.
So he's Anjin. Brilliant. Nige?
I think it would be a successful season in the fact that, like Chris said, we could win it. Ange will say, there's your trophy. I'm off. Most of the fans would be happy because most of the fans now accept that a manager needs to be changed. We've got that trophy. I mean, the league form has been horrific, but can you remember where we finished in 2008? Can you remember when we finished in 99? In 91? I can.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's all about winning a trophy now.
I completely agree. Drew?
I can't see him, if he wins it, as much as there's a multiverse out there where he turns around and says, you lot are too much, I've done my bit, I'm out.
Yeah.
There is that universe, I'm sure. In this one, I genuinely don't see him, given his rhetoric on the young players, and especially a standout interview or presser where he said he would just hope that he would be around to see the fruits of like Archie Grays and your Bergvaus. I don't see this world being the world where we qualify for the Champions League and he says, I'm not going to try and take that up. Now, a different argument, a different conversation for another time, potentially off of the back of that is, are we then walking into an Erik ten Hag situation where we kind of all know that maybe the writing's on the wall, but he's done enough, and maybe the board just don't have the balls to be like, you know what, you did it, and that's great, but then
just buy himself a bit more time.
Yeah, there's just, I wonder whether, now that I'm thinking about it, or now that we're discussing it, I wonder whether he's maybe done just enough and he's been just prickly enough that they might feel like they feel like they could probably get away with it. I mean, if you've got somebody half decent lined up, let's say, obviously it's not going to be Mourinho again, but if they could do something whereby he's out in the afternoon and midnight a deal's signed and we all wake up and Nagelsmann's in charge or something, if they could pull off something like that, then I could see him doing it. But I don't see him walking away. I think he's got too much. He's too proud, and I think he wants to take this team into the Champions League. I'm also slightly concerned that and don't take this as I don't want to win the trophy, because I absolutely do. But my concern is that when we win the trophy, I feel like there might be an element of the board going, it might just be a few moment, like that was close. And then they just carry on doing the same old bollocks that they've been doing for the last 10, 15 years. So I'm hoping this is enough of a kick up the arse that, you know, we at least get some sort of traction when we win the cup. Because I'm that confident. I think I'm buzzing. I'm really so confident. My old man unfortunately passed away a few years ago, and he was avid Spurs. And the last game we watched was Liverpool in the Champions League. So I'm just desperate for this one, just for pops. So, But yeah, I don't know, man. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I agree. I'm one day I do think he'll walk, and then the next I just think if he's this stubborn that we all keep saying.
Yeah. Then one minute I'm like, there's no way they're going to fire him, and then I'm like, they definitely fire him. They might fire. They might just be like, you know what, happy days. It's not much to get rid of you. You've now got the second season trophy on your CV. You're not going to be hard pressed to find a job. It'll all be all right. And I think, he's maybe been prickly enough that they think, you know what, we can get away with this. And most of the fans will be like, nah, it's all right.
I think there's so many different caveats to this in terms of if that Vinny that's come in, if he brings in a director of football, who does he want? Right. I have a sneaky feeling that Levy would be, if you offered Levy the chance now, you keep Ange for a year, he does okay, does mediocre, you get rid of him and you bring Poch back. I think that would be what he would choose. If he wants Poch back that much, then can he appoint a manager now, knowing that in a year's time he wants it? Like, there's so many different caveats. And then obviously you've got the whole, we don't even know where we're going to be. Are we going to be Champions League team or are we not, sort of thing. So there is so much just waiting.
Everything hinges on that, I think. And we can all agree everything probably hinges on that, right?
And we're being left behind because there's other clubs that know what they're going to be doing, that are going to go out there and make the signings or whatever, whereas we're still sitting back and waiting. So I definitely feel like we could go down the whole Angie and Angie out, will we, won't we, who should we sign discussion, but we could probably be here till next week and continue in that. So I think it is time to wrap it up. It is nearly 10 to 12 in the UK now. So you can all do your self-promotion. Chris, you can start because you don't do YouTube. You just do a bit of Twitter, don't you?
Yeah, I don't really have any self-promotion. I'm not trying to really get anywhere with this. I'm just, I don't know, I just join in for the fun.
Why have you got a Twitter account strictly for you and your football views then?
Because someone made it for me and it was too good to not use. That was just the honest truth. But yeah.
Link will be in the description anyway. Go and catch Chris, who barely ever goes on Twitter, but he's made a Twitter for himself. Anyway, Nige?
Yeah, I'm on TikTok, Nige Pure Coys, and on YouTube, Nige Pure Coys. So get over and subscribe. Much appreciated.
Yeah, I added everyone's link in the description. I've just checked it and I've noticed that your link is not in Nige, so I'll have to make sure I'll add that. I don't know what's happened.
Okay, mate.
It's poor. It's absolutely poor. I wasn't even going to tell you. I was just going to do it, but I have told you. I don't know why you seem to have dropped off there, mate. And then
he's Mr. Sitter.
Last but not least, Drew.
Yes, you can find me over on Spurs Diehards Tottenham Till I Die. I host a show on Friday evenings with Adrian. And then I usually do pre-game for Premier League games on the Irish Hotspur. And then intermittently on Sean Butler's Spurs Talk Show. So, yeah, a plethora of places. So I'm just happy to be part of the community.
Here, there and everywhere, that's for sure.
Here, there and everywhere.
So, again, thank you very much, everyone, for coming on. It's been very much appreciated. obviously a very, very new show, very new to YouTube. I've only been around for a month or so. It's been one of the worst months ever because we just keep losing games and it's barely ever a win. So today was absolutely brilliant. But again, thank you very much. Everyone's link is in the description. Please like and subscribe to them as well. And from all of us here, come on, you Spurs.
Go on, you Spurs.